My story begins 27 years after I married Sherry Shackelford, the love of my life. It was a typical college romance followed by final exams, a big wedding, lots of amazing sex, and one baby. Our daughter Randy was conceived on our honeymoon. The pregnancy and birth were difficult, so we decided not to have any more children. I had a vasectomy, and that was it. My name is Jake Turner. I am 49 years old, like my wife Sherry. Our daughter Randy is 26, married with no children, and lives about an hour away from us. I graduated from university with a degree in finance and started working at a local bank. After about 7 years, I moved to a larger bank and rose to the position of vice president. It was a great job with a good salary, plus I had a great boss, the president of the bank. He took me under his wing, which helped me advance in my career. Sherry earned a degree in accounting and became a certified public accountant. She recently became a junior partner at the firm. We live in a nice area, in a nice house with a pool, and although we make good money, we also spend a lot. We enjoyed our successes. Sherry is a real beauty. Beautiful face, great body, long blonde hair, and long legs that curl so nicely around my back during sex. Did I mention she has great breasts? So, she really has magnificent breasts. Now let me say that I'm not bad either. Tall, handsome, athletic build, with good blonde hair. I haven't lost a single hair yet. Well, at least that described me until about 6 months ago, and that's the beginning of the story. Sherry. Jake called me from work and said something was wrong, and if I could take the day off and come home. He didn't explain over the phone, so I took the day off and hurried home. When I arrived, Jake was sitting on the couch looking like the world was about to collapse. The bank where Jake worked was sold to one of the mega banks about 2 weeks ago. Jake's boss, whom he liked and respected, sold the bank and retired. Jake and his new boss didn't get along very well, but Jake thought things would get better with time. The banking industry was going through difficult times at the time due to the recession and housing crisis. Jake began to shake as he said, "Sherry, I got fired. Mr. Kenneth Henderson, the new boss, called me this morning and told me there were going to be changes at the bank, and I didn't fit into the bank's future. He gave me 3 months severance and told me to leave as soon as I packed my things." "Oh, Jake, darling, I'm so sorry. I know how much you like this job. Don't worry, we can handle it, and you'll find a new job soon. You have 3 months of salary, and I'm sure you'll find another job before this money runs out." "Sherry, we are still in a recession. It will be difficult to find a position equal to the one I had in this bank. It's like starting from scratch. You know me, I need to work. I don't like to sit idle. My work is my life. Besides you and Randy, this is what I live for. Jake, I have no doubt that you will find a new job, perhaps even a better one. You are talented, hardworking, and always put your heart and soul into your work. Everything will be all right. We'll be okay financially. You have 3 months. That's enough time to find a new job." "You think so, Sherry? I can tell that it will be difficult for me, knowing that you are doing all the work and I am not doing my part." "Darling, you are making a contribution. Remember that you are still getting paid. By the way, should we transfer our money from your old bank?" "Hell yes, we will transfer them. That bastard Henderson will never see another penny from our business." That night, I had passionate sex with him to boost his confidence. Jake was a great lover. He really knew how to satisfy me in bed. The next day, Jake started looking for a job. Everywhere he went, he heard the same thing. The banking crisis had gotten worse, so no one wanted to hire new employees. This went on for a couple of months, and Jake became more depressed every day. It was hard to see this great man slowly break down. I saw that he was seriously depressed. 3 months later, his severance pay ran out, and there was still no work. Now we live only on my salary. We were forced to significantly reduce our budget. Our mortgage payment was quite large, and I was afraid that we would have to sell the house and move to cheaper housing. To top it all off, Jake became increasingly depressed. He told me he felt like a complete failure. He was no longer the man who could provide for his family. and then it happened. I came home from work and found Jake drunk on the couch. This became a daily occurrence, but that was not all. He lost all interest in taking care of himself. His hair became unkempt, he rarely shaved, and sometimes days went by without showering or changing clothes. He also gave up looking for work. He drank, lay around, and ate junk food. He didn't do anything around the house. He was becoming pathetic, and I finally couldn't stand it anymore. He looked and smelled like crap. I kicked him out of the bedroom. We haven't had sex for over a month. The last straw was what happened last night when I came home after a hard day at work. Jake was drunk on the couch as usual. I made myself something to eat, then headed to the bedroom. I took a long, hot shower, put on my nightgown, and started making the bed. Jake walked in, looking terrible as always. He tried to hug me. "Come on, baby, let's do this tonight." He tried to kiss me, but I pushed him away. "Look at you, Jake. Do you think I want to make love to you in this state? I bet you can't even get aroused. You are pathetic. You are no longer a man. You are definitely not the man I married. Basically, pack your things and get out of this house. I pay the bills and you're good for nothing anymore anyway." I saw from his face that I had seriously hurt him. I've never seen Jake look like that. It took me a lot of effort not to go to him, but he needed this warning call. I had to do something drastic. Then he said, "Please, Sherry, help me. I'm so sorry I became such a loser. I'm so depressed. Please, I beg you to help me." I knew I couldn't give up now. He needed that tough love to pull himself out of his depression. "You heard me, Jake. I said pack your things and get out of this house. Clean yourself up, stop drinking, clean yourself up, and I'll let you come back. Then you can find yourself a job, any job." He cried while packing his things. He left the house with his head down. He looked back at me as he opened the door, but I held firm. I just showed him the exit. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Jake, I left home that night feeling like I had hit rock bottom. I rented a cheap motel and bought several bottles of cheap whiskey. I immersed myself in alcohol and stayed in it for a week. My phone rang periodically, but I didn't answer or even look to see who it was. It's been about a week since I moved into the motel. I was lying on the bed drunk and barely thinking. At that moment, I thought that maybe it would be best to end everything. What do I have left in my life? There was a glass vase with artificial flowers on the night table. I smashed the vase on the coffee table, breaking it. I wanted to commit suicide. I was about to do this when there was a knock on the door. Then I heard my daughter Randy's voice screaming for me to open the door. Then the voice of her husband John shouting the same thing. I was sitting on the floor with a large piece of glass when the door opened. The manager was with them. Randy convinced him that I might be in danger. Randy ran over and snatched the piece of glass from my hand. She threw it across the room and then hugged me. We both cried as she helped me onto the bed. "Dad, I didn't know it was so bad. I haven't talked to you for a long time, so I didn't know what was going on until my mom told me a couple of days ago. I knew that you lost your job, but I didn't know that you were so depressed and drinking. Mom told me everything and said that she kicked you out. She did it to give you a boost, but now I see that she underestimated the seriousness of the situation. John and Sherry paid my hotel bill and then took me to their home. John was driving my car. They told me that I would live with them until I put my life in order. I made her swear that she wouldn't tell Sherry anything until I was ready to come home. She agreed, but said she would let my mom know I was okay. Over the next few weeks, with the help of Randy and John, I pulled myself together. I stopped drinking, cleaned myself up, and started exercising. They had a mini gym in their garage. If I wasn't looking for a new job, I was training. I started to look and feel better. If only I could find a good job, I could go home to Sherry triumphant, and she would be proud of me. Sherry. Jake was gone for about a month. All I knew was that Randy called and said he was working on himself. I missed Jake terribly, but the Jake I used to know. He will not return home if he is the same as he was when he left. Okay, I think I'll give him a little more time. I didn't want to get a divorce, but I was beginning to doubt that I had a choice. About 2 weeks after Jake left, I was assigned a new, very handsome client. We had lunch together several times on business matters, and things went pretty well. It had been quite some time since I had sex, with Jake of course, and I was starting to feel aroused. I wanted Jake back, but I haven't heard anything from him since he left. The client's name was Walter. He owned his own business and used our firm for all his accounting needs. I was assigned to work with his business. I noticed at our second dinner that he was interested in me for more than just business matters. I must admit that I also began to feel interested in him. However, I was still married to Jake and told him so. He was smart and knew what to say. He reminded me of all the negative things I told him about Jake. I don't think I realized I was so cruel to Jake. He convincingly said that everything would be fine if we went on a date. He even used the word separately. I became increasingly confused and agitated listening to his nonsense. Walter was divorced and probably a ladies' man. Over time, this stopped bothering me. I wanted more and more to go on a date with him. He asked me out to dinner a couple of times, but I thought of my old Jake and said no. It's been 6 months since Jake lost his job and about a month since I kicked him out. I didn't know what to do. Should I go and file for divorce? I decided to wait another 2 weeks and then contact a lawyer. I also had another dinner invitation from Walter. My social life was practically non-existent. I decided that a harmless dinner wouldn't ruin anything. I just wanted to get out of the house and be in the company of men, so I agreed to Saturday evening. Jake, Randy, and John became my saviors. Among other things, they took me to the doctor. She prescribed me mild antidepressants, which made me feel much better. She said I was clinically depressed. I was working on some job offers when I received a call from Mr. D. Sanders at my old bank. It turned out that he was the new manager. Mr. Henderson was fired a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Sanders said he was looking through old personnel files and came across mine. He couldn't believe Henderson fired me. Ultimately, he wanted to invite me to interview for a position at my old bank. We agreed to meet the next day. I was delighted. I couldn't wait to tell Randy and John. As soon as they returned from work, I told them the news. Randy decided I needed a new suit, and we decided to go out to dinner and celebrate. She bought me a very stylish 3-piece suit that made me look like $1 million. I walked into this interview full of confidence. I was myself. Training, diet, and medication have made me even better than old Jake. Mr. Sanders said he would call if he had anything for me. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, I received a call from Mr. Pa Sanders. Not only did he offer me a job, but he also wanted me to become the new manager. He was there temporarily until a permanent manager was found. He liked what he saw in me and wanted me immediately. He offered a bonus of $10,000 and double my previous salary. I was in seventh heaven. I could finally return to Sherry like a real man. I told Randy and John everything. We all jumped, hugged, and screamed with joy. Dad, don't you think it's time to call Mom and tell her everything? She doesn't know anything about what's happening to you. No, honey, I want to surprise you. I want to return home in triumph. I want her to see a better version of the old Jake walking through the door. Don't tell her anything yet. Tomorrow is Saturday. I have to go to the bank for orientation at my new job. But tomorrow night, I will surprise your mother and win her over like before. Sherry, this morning I went shopping to get ready for my dinner this evening. I have to admit that even when I was choosing a dress, I felt guilty. I never even thought about cheating on Jake. Oh, maybe I flirted a couple of times, but it was innocent. I know Jake will never cheat on me. I kept telling myself that it was just an innocent dinner, and besides, Jake wasn't here and might never come back. I knew deep down in my heart that there was a high chance that I would have sex with Walter tonight. This thought excited me, but at the same time made me feel guilty. If we went back to my house after dinner, which I knew we would do, would I be able to go for it? The only man I've had sex with for the last 29 years was Jake. I bought a beautiful red sexy dress. It didn't look vulgar, but it fit me perfectly. I knew it would turn Walter on. And did I want this? I wasn't sure. Maybe. Walter was supposed to pick me up at 7 as oh. I may have gone a little overboard, but I haven't been on a date in a while. The last time was over 6 months ago with Jake. I was starting to doubt that Jake would ever come back. I wonder how he's doing. Randy was in contact with him, but didn't tell me anything. She just said that he was fine. God, how I miss my Jake. I got my hair and nails done. I took a long, hot bubble bath and a glass of wine, then put on my dress. I must admit that I looked good. Perhaps even too good. It was about 6:30. I went downstairs to have another glass of wine and wait for Walter. Jake. I spent most of the day getting to know the bank's staff and systems. Met with the regional vice president, and we hit it off. Everything was finally returning to normal for me. I thought about calling Sherry, but I like surprises, so I decided to give her a big surprise. At Forda's, I went shopping to buy a gift for Sherry. I bought her a very beautiful diamond necklace. Used part of my bonus to buy it. On the way, I stopped at a flower shop and bought 3 dozen roses. It's time for my grand entrance. It was about 6:15. I was 30 minutes from home. I went home to my wife. I arrived at the house around 6:45. Her car was here, so she was home. I took a deep breath and got out of the car with the flowers and necklace. Approaching the front door, I decided to ring the doorbell. I know it's still my home, but it felt a little strange to come back. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I was finally going to get my wife and my life back. I rang the doorbell. Sherry. I was sitting on the couch enjoying a glass of wine when the doorbell rang. You're early, Walter. You must be impatient, mischief maker. I opened the door and said, Hi, Walter. You're early. Jake, what are you doing here? Well, I figured we were still married, even though you kicked me out at the lowest point of my life. I guess it's still my house since my name is on the mortgage. Obviously, you were waiting for someone else. Who is this Walter, your new boyfriend? Are you cheating on me, Sherry? Jake, no, I can explain everything. I started crying. I didn't expect this. It was old Jake. In fact, he looked even better than before. He was wearing a 3-piece suit and looked so handsome and confident. This was not the same person who walked through that door the last time. I had to sit down. Jake just stood there and looked at me. He threw flowers at me. 3 dozen roses. I felt like I was going to faint. Suddenly, I thought about Walter. Oh no, this will be bad. Jake just stood there and looked at me. If looks could kill, I would already be lying in the cemetery. Several minutes passed while he stood there. The doorbell rang again. Jake turned and opened the door. Well, you must be Walter, the one who has someone else's wife. Nice to meet you, Walt. Jake was much bigger than Walter, who looked like a man who wanted to get out of there quickly. Jake grabbed Walter by the collar and literally lifted him up, leading him to the door. Jake threw Walter against his car and said, Listen here, you little bastard. If I see you around my wife one more time, I will stitch your ass to your face and make you shit down your throat. Got it, Walt? Walter said, Yes, sir, as he got into his car and drove away. Jake returned and slammed the door. Then he moved from anger to pain. He fell to his knees and cried. All the emotions and pain he had been through came rushing back to him, and a lot of it was my fault. First, I turned away from him in his time of need, and then I almost cheated on him. I was the worst wife in the world. I tried to help him get up, but he pushed me away. How long have you been cheating on me, Sherry? Were there others? Am I just one big fool to you? Sit down with me, Jake, and I will tell you everything, and it will be the truth. First of all, I have never cheated on you and have no intention of. Walter is a client, but I admit I let him go too far. I wasn't sure you'd ever come back. I didn't hear anything from you, so I didn't know if you were still drinking or not. I haven't had a drink since a week after you kicked me out, he said. That's good, dear. I know I was wrong, but I was so disappointed in you. In any case, Walter and I met several times on business matters, and I got to know him better. He was a good man. Yes, a good man who just wanted to get into your panties. Maybe so, but he was kind to me and said all the right things. I was lonely without you, Jake. You were away for a long time. I wanted to go out and do something. He invited me to dinner, and I accepted. Were you planning to come back here after dinner? Jake asked. I do not know. Maybe. We only talked about dinner, but yes, we would probably come back here for a glass of wine. Tell me something, Sherry, and be honest. If he brought you here and tried to have sex with you, would you go for it? I won't lie, Jake, that thought has crossed my mind. I was lonely, and like I said, I wasn't sure if you would come back. But deep down, no, I wouldn't cross that line. When all is said and done, I am still married to you and love you with all my heart and soul. I really want to believe you, Sherry, but I think that after a couple of glasses of wine, you might give in and sleep with him. I thought about it, dear, and decided to limit the amount of alcohol I drink. You just have to trust that I would have remained faithful. Even though I had doubts, I convinced myself that I would remain faithful. It doesn't matter, Jake is back, and I'll never see Walter again. I hope you're telling the truth, Sherry, because our future and our marriage depend on it. I swear, Jake, I just want everything to go back to the way it was before. I could see from his face that it wouldn't be easy, if not impossible. I could see that he still had doubts about what could have happened this evening if he had not come. I have a lot to process, Sherry, and I'm not ready to just forgive and forget. I need time to think about everything. I'm back home, but I'll be staying in the guest room until I figure this out. My heart sank. I knew dinner with Walter was a bad idea. Deep inside, I told myself that this was wrong. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to myself. Jake said, "Now I want you to listen to my story. I don't think you understood the seriousness of what happened. I was destroyed when you told me to leave, especially when you said I'm no longer the man you married and I don't contribute anything. I begged you to help me, but you turned away." I started crying. I couldn't look at Jake. I realized what a terrible wife I was that night. I thought I was helping him by getting him to change. It was the worst thing I could do. He didn't need tough love. He needed my love. I ended up in some rundown motel. I bought enough alcohol to keep me drunk for a week. Finally, I decided that I had nothing left. I broke a vase in the room and was about to eat with myself when Randy and John started knocking on the door. The manager was with them, and they convinced him that I was in danger. Randy ran up to me and hugged me. I cried for about 15 minutes. She saved my life. Randy called me a couple of days before, and I told her the whole story. I guess she got worried and went looking for her father. I don't know how she found it, but I'm glad she did. I know Jake, and he could very well have cut his wrist that night. The thought made me feel sick. Randy and John took me in and helped me change. I stopped drinking immediately. I started training in their mini gym. I shaved, cleaned myself up, and started writing the best resume for my job search. Started feeling and looking better. They also took me to a doctor who said I was clinically depressed. The doctor started treating me, which helped a lot. All I had to do was find a good job, and then I could return to you in triumph and earn your respect. Oh God, Jake, what a terrible wife I was. It's all my fault. I should have done what Randy did instead of feeling sorry for myself. How can you even forgive me? I cried so hard that Jake came over and hugged me. I felt good in his arms, but he soon pulled away. Today was the day of my triumphant return. The day I was supposed to get my wife back, but what do I find? I find my wife ready to go on a date with some bastard named Walter. What do I need to do, Jake? I explained about Walter. I apologized until I was blue in the face. What else do I need to do? Just say it, and I'll do it. I think, Sherry, I need some time. Like I said, I need to think things through. I'll figure this out before next Friday. What exactly do you need to think about, Jake? I know I love you, but I need to figure out if we can stay together. It was very painful to come home and see my wife going on a date and possibly having sex with another man. I swear to you, Jake, that I would remain faithful to you. Jake walked over and lifted my dress, revealing my underwear. Thank God I decided not to wear the sexy panties I bought with the dress. I put on regular underwear. He said, lowering his dress, if you were wearing sexy lingerie or a thong, I would leave and file for divorce. With these words, he left. Oh, how I ruined everything. I just hope and pray that Jake will follow his heart and give me a chance. Jake. Sherry looked sad when I left. A few minutes ago, she was so happy about my work. As I was about to go to the guest room, I remembered the necklace. I walked over to the table by the front door where I had left it. I took it out of the package. It was wrapped as a gift, so I walked up to Sherry and said, "This is for you. I bought it today as a return gift. I used my bonus money to buy it. I hope you like it." She opened the gift while I was leaving. I heard her say, "Jake." Then I heard her crying. I hope she liked it. Over the next few days, we both came and went without much communication. We were polite, but she gave me space. Every night I tried to rethink all the events and try to understand them. I knew we were both to blame for what happened, but I couldn't shake the image of Walter standing at the door to pick up Sherry. Not to mention how beautiful she looked. I knew what he wanted. The question is what Sherry wanted. Friday afternoon, I was still struggling with it. It was very important to ask Sherry one question this evening and get an honest answer from her. I came home around 6 a.m. When I walked through the door, I smelled a familiar smell. It was lasagna, my favorite dish. Sherry cooked it perfectly. The dining room table was set with our porcelain and crystal glasses. The lights were dim and candles were burning on the table. Soft music was playing on the stereo. Sherry walked out of the kitchen looking absolutely stunning. She really cleaned herself up. She was wearing the diamond necklace that I bought. It looked even better on her than in the window. I hope you're hungry. I made your favorite dish lasagna with Caesar salad. I also have a bottle of Chianti, but if you can't drink alcohol, I understand. It looks fantastic. Yes, I'm hungry, and yes, I can drink Chianti. I wasn't addicted to alcohol, I just drank to numb the pain. I immediately stopped drinking when I realized I no longer needed it. I can't imagine lasagna without Chianti. Sherry walked over and I pulled her chair back, helping her sit down. I then sat down and we enjoyed a wonderful dinner together. It was a long time ago. We talked during dinner about our day and various things at work. After we finished the lasagna, Sherry disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 pieces of coconut cake, again my favorite. After we finished dessert, I said, "Honey, I have a very important question to ask you, and I need your absolute honesty in answering it." "Of course, Jake. Ask anything. I promise an honest and truthful answer." "After everything that has happened, deep down in your heart, would you rather be with Walter or some other man or stay married to me? If you choose me, it means that we will be together in sorrow and in joy, in wealth and in poverty, despite any difficulties. I will never cheat on you, and I need to know that I can trust you." She began to cry, saying, "I am yours forever, until the day I die. I love you, Jake. You are my hero and my warrior, my knight in shining armor." She stood up and sat on my lap. She kissed me passionately and deeply. I felt good in her arms. I felt her breathing quicken, as did mine. I stood up and, like in the movies, swept all the plates to one end of the table. I picked her up and sat her on the edge of the table. We both started breathing heavily as we French kissed. My hands were everywhere. I missed her so much. We were both so horny that we had to do it right then and there. When our breathing finally slowed, she said, "That was amazing, but how about we go upstairs, take a hot shower together, and then get into bed and make slow, passionate love all night?" "Let's go check it out, Mrs. Turner. Today we will test what we are capable of." We made love all weekend. We got out of bed to eat, go to the toilet, and shower. The dishes from Friday night were still on the table on Sunday afternoon. We connected again even better than before. The following year, we both turned 50 and had our first grandchild. But even in old age, grandparents could spark passion in the bedroom. 2 years after I was rehired, I was promoted to regional vice president. I was responsible for all bank branches in Central and South Texas. Sherry became a major partner in her accounting firm. What about Walter? Old Walter moved his business elsewhere, and we never saw him again. Fortunately, he was a good-looking guy, but his appearance would have suffered greatly if his ass had been sewn to his face. We bought a condo in Port Aransas on the beach. We spend many weekends there with our daughter, son-in-law, and grandson. I think if it weren't for my daughter, I wouldn't be here now. Who knows, maybe Sherry would have been married to Walter. I thank Randy every chance I get for what she has done for me and Sherry. She says it was nothing special, but I know better. I could have even committed suicide that day. I think everything happens for a reason. Whether it's by design, divine intervention, or anything else, I know that Sherry and I are meant to be together forever, and that's how it will be. We will lie next to each other forever. I have already bought a plot.